Thursday, but right now we've got to get to this game and try to put this championship into some perspective. And I do think it's going to be difficult to do that because I don't know if there are words adequate to describe what we just saw with Indiana. And, I know I'm going to fall short, but I'm going to do my very best. This might have been one of the most consequential championships that I've seen in my lifetime in college football because we don't often get new blood in this sport. In fact, it's exceedingly rare to get a team to a point where they can go and win that school's first national championship. I did not do this on my own research. I believe that the broadcast mentioned that we haven't had a first-time national champion since 96 when Florida won it. Now, this is what's so wild to me is that if you take us all back just a few years in the late 2000 and teens, if you will, when Alabama and Clemson are going through their run and then ultimately Georgia kind of joined that run, I had no faith that we were going to get to a point in college football where others were going to be able to level up and join that caliber of program. It's just not how the sport was built at the time. And here we are in 2025 and the Indiana Hoosiers of all teams, not just like kind of new blood, like, hey, Oregon's been knocking at the door forever and they finally got their national champion. No. Indiana, who at the beginning of this season was the losingest program in the history of the sport. I just like, I can't get over how big this is for college football because now every school and every fan in the country, wherever you are listening to this and whoever you root for, wherever you went to school, you feel like you have a shot. We're one coach away. We're one recruiting class, one transfer portal window away from competing at the highest level. We have never had this amount of parity in our sport, not even close. That playoff was sensational throughout. Some duds, some great games, but in every single one, save for Indiana against Bama and maybe Oregon and maybe a couple of others with the group of 5 teams, like either team could have won those games. Heck, A&M's driving down to beat Miami in the first round. Miami gets all the way into the national championship game and they're driving to try to go and win the national championship. So listen, like this is a phenomenal era of college football. And I think that Indiana winning the national championship is evidence of that. New blood in the sport is incredible. This is incredible for the sport, which is why. And I know a lot of people, listen, I will occasionally like go down there and read a lot of the comments and I hear some of you and a lot of people scoffed at me a few years ago when we started this show and I had the line and since we actually don't have it in the open anymore in the show, but I had a line in the old open of the show that said, we are at the dawn of the golden age of college football. This is the evidence. This is the goal. This is it. This is it. How else do you get into an era where Indiana, of all teams and all programs, can go and win a national championship? Like this is staggering stuff. They went 6-0 versus top 10 teams this year. Coming into this season, they had 6 wins in their program's history against top 10 teams. They were 6-117-1 against top 10 teams. Like LSU in 19 beat 7, and now we've got Indiana and Ohio State with 6 wins against top 10 teams in the last couple of years. Indiana. I keep saying that because to me, like it means something. This, again, I believe, could be, in hindsight, and I know we're fresh off of this, that this is going to be one of the most consequential national champions that we have seen in a long, long time because everybody is going to believe that they are close. And that's exactly what we've needed in college football because I'll be very honest with you. In the late 2000 teens, when not only did I think it was going to be difficult for someone to level up, but I would be calling college football games and thinking to myself like, well, this is totally inconsequential as it relates to the national championship. And now you can no longer say that. There are so many teams and programs that are close. We had teams that candidly weren't even close to the postseason that gave Indiana everything that they wanted. Penn State. Penn State is right. Listen, again, this was a phenomenal team, an incredible coach, and we're going to get to all of that. But the time that we're in right now, I think that we should all sit back and just take a little bit of perspective and just kind of view where we're at in college football. I even went through and I looked at the overall commit rankings for next year's classes, right? Not just high school players and not just transfer portal. So if you mix the two and you just look at, all right, new players into all these programs, here's what you would see. In the top 10 new classes, portal and high school, you've got everybody bringing in 35 or 36 plus players. And in the top 10, you've got the number one overall by rating, by average rating of player, is Notre Dame, and their average rating, 36 players, average rating about 92.2. You go all the way down to number 10, it's Tennessee. They're going to bring in 45 new players, average rating of 89.5. It's right there. Again, so we are equating talent across a lot of different conferences and teams, and that's good for the sport. And the evidence, obviously, is Indiana winning the national championship. Curt Cignetti pulls this thing off, and as a coach, I would just have to say, I can't put into perspective exactly what we've seen from Curt Cignetti because we have never seen anything like what we have seen from Curt Cignetti. So there is no perspective to give other than this is the single greatest coaching job in the history of college football. I think that you have to go outside of college football to start finding, at least other examples of coaches that have done something that is even remotely like this. I mean, is this similar to Herb Brooks in the Miracle on Ice? I don't know. That was a couple of weeks for one tournament. Now, granted, maybe them as an underdog, yes, over the Soviets and winning that hockey game, albeit in the semifinals, and ultimately winning the gold medal. Maybe it's that. Is it Raleigh Massimino and Villanova winning the NCAA tournament? Is it Jim Valvano and North Carolina State winning the NCAA tournament? I don't know. That's like one pocket with one tournament. This guy comes in and in 2 years goes 27-2 with the losingest program in the history of the sport. It's wild. It's absolutely wild, which just goes to show you that in this era of college football, if you get the right person and he's got the right assistants and they bring in the right players, it can turn around. It can turn around. The evidence is right there. It is right there. And Curt Cignetti just proved it. This is, again, why I would say this is the dawn of the golden age of college football, because I believe there are a lot of teams and programs that can do this. We've seen Texas Tech invest heavily. We've seen Oregon over the last 2 decades, 3 decades, invest heavily in college football. This is going to be, I think, more the norm, and I think that that's great. That doesn't mean that the Blue Bloods are going away. They certainly aren't. And they're going to be right there, and you're going to have to go play them, and you're going to have to go beat them. There's no doubt about that. But college football is not set up for parity. We don't give the best draft picks to the worst programs. In fact, if you're the worst program in the history of college football by overall losses, that generally means that you're going to have a lack of funding, a lack of facilities, a lack of interest. It's harder to compete, and he turns it around right away. 27-2? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is the greatest coaching job in the history of college football, and I think it's going to rival any great coaching job that we've ever seen in any sport ever. And Curt Cignetti has just authored it in Bloomington at Indiana. The Big Ten wins their 3rd straight national championship with a 3rd different team. I think that that's important because I would argue that narratives need to die in college football. And it's pretty clear that the pervasive narrative surrounding the strength of the SEC is dead and needs to die and needs to continue to die, because that narrative drives our subjective sport when we're starting to select through a committee our playoff participants. And that hurts the overall sport when there is a narrative that is driven that is false. And this is obviously false. We have seen it now in 3 straight years. We have seen it with 3 different teams. And the top of college football is now very easily residing in the Big Ten. And there is no argument about that. That's just the facts of what we've got. That's just the truth of what's going on. Now, you could maybe have a debate, maybe, about the middle. And again, the pervasive narrative is that the depth of the SEC is just so far and away greater than every other conference in America. But as we saw in bowl season, that also is false. You can maybe have a debate about it. I think you will lose that debate. But that narrative needs to die. All narratives need to die, because the sport will be better if we start looking out for the whole and not for individual conferences. I will be the first to say that. Let's get into this game, start talking about some of these players. I really think that this was one of the great teams that we've seen in college football history. I know that sounds strange, because when we think about great teams in college football history, we ultimately think about great players, and great players typically are high-round draft picks. And I don't know if Indiana is going to have a ton of first-round draft picks. Now, obviously, Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner, is going to be a first-round draft pick, probably the first overall pick in the draft. I don't know how many others there are, but there's a lot of great college football players. And this is one thing that I want us to do as college football fans. Sometimes we have to appreciate what something is here and not there. Because a frustration of mine is that we'll be talking about college football players and be like, no, yeah, he was okay. But what they're talking about is the NFL. And it's like, hey, like in college, he was amazing. He was amazing, whether it was individually or maybe even a team as well. And this is going to be one of those teams. Now, I hope these guys all go on to have really successful NFL careers. And I hope that helps perpetuate the fact that we will look back on this team in particular as one of the best that we've ever seen. But if you just look at what they have done here, not there, here in college football, you'll see that from a point differential standpoint, they're second all time to that great Florida State team with Jameis Winston. This is a team that has won at a clip that is historic. Their point differential is plus 479. That surpasses 2018 Clemson, 2019 Ohio State, 95 Nebraska. It's second only to 2013 Florida State, which had a differential of plus 553, which, by the way, is wild. It's absolutely wild. This Indiana team, as Nick Saban talked about in the pregame, maybe one of the most sound and balanced teams that we have in college football this year. Maybe in a long, long time. Certainly any team that I've covered. I've covered a lot of different teams over my career. I started calling college football games, I believe it was 2009. Yeah, 2009 was my first year calling a few college football games. And since that date until now, almost 20 years, not quite 20 years, this is the most balanced and sound team that I've ever seen. No doubt about it. Now, there's been more talented teams with guys that'll go on to have first-round draft picks. But as far as a balanced team, this one takes the cake. Think about it from this standpoint. They've faced teams with great individual talent and areas of those teams that are superior to them. We saw it in the championship game. Bain and Mesidor rushing the quarterback. They had no answer for that pass rush. I mean, that pass rush was fierce. It was outstanding. Those two guys, they were fun to watch. And yet, Indiana still has other things that they can go to. They can go to the back shoulder fade. They can go to the quarterback draw. They rolled out a little bit. That's just on offense. Oh, by the way, they handed the ball off 37 times for over 130 yards. So like they got to some things that got them away from the pass rush, even though they couldn't block those guys. They faced Jeremiah Smith. They faced the pass rush of Penn State and the run game of Penn State. Like they did all of those things, but they're so balanced and they're so good everywhere that eventually they're going to find your weakness and be better than you there. And that's exactly what we saw in this championship game. Let's go to some of the key moments in this game. Obviously, late in that second half, the way Mendoza played in big downs, third down, fourth down, whether it was him running or making throws, the way Charlie Becker played, becoming basically the go-to guy. We thought that was going to be Elijah Surratt because he was for the majority of the year, but Surratt candidly did not play well in the championship game. Cooper played pretty well. The backs played pretty well. And then Becker was a monster. The dude was incredible on the back shoulder. I mean, going to him on a 4th down, going back shoulder, and he comes up with it, massive. Going back to him on 3rd down, massive, the back shoulder. And then, how about the stones on Cignetti? It looks like they're confused. It's 4th down. You're down there in the red zone. They don't want to kick a field goal. They end up taking a timeout, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, are they finally rattled? Because I haven't seen Indiana rattled much at all this entire year. The quarterback stays very, very even keeled. Obviously, Cignetti doesn't even smile on the sideline. And they looked a bit hurried and rattled and didn't know what to do. Are we kicking the field goal? Are we going for it on 4th down? They ended up taking a timeout. And I'm like, man, in a close game, you don't want to waste timeouts like that in that situation. And they end up going for it. And how about the call to go for a quarterback draw with Fernando? Man, this is not Cam Newton. And they go with Fernando Mendoza, and this dude's selling out, and he had been hit all night by that pass rush, just getting absolutely blasted. And I will tell you, as a kid that grew up in Denver, Colorado, and was on the edge of my seat, watching the Denver Broncos as double-digit dogs try to beat Green Bay in Super Bowl 32 and watch John Elway go airborne in the old Murph in San Diego and get helicopter hit. That's exactly what it reminded me of. You're watching a guy sell out inside the 5, and he stays on his feet, and he lays out for the goal line and gets absolutely drilled right in his spine, and he scores the touchdown. And he scores the touchdown. Like, that call by Cignetti, the effort by Mendoza, all of it. I was just like, oh my gosh. How do you, as a team, execute at that high a level in those moments consistently? Because they do. They do. They just don't make many mistakes. And this was one of their sloppiest games. One of their sloppiest games. I tell you, man, that was a wild sequence right there. Indiana wins it 27-21. Miami actually outgained them, but Indiana held on to the football. They stayed committed to the run game, even when it was tough. I think when I look at this game, what I'm going to remember are the plays that were made. They're getting to Mendoza. This is hard every 3rd down was difficult. He's getting hit. He's getting battered. He's showing bruises after the game in the interview with Holly Rowe. Miami was right there, but they made too many mistakes. And it was not a clean game from Indiana as well. I will just say this. The end of that game, there was almost one of the worst false starts in the history of college football. And I'm sorry, I'm got to pull it up. Carter Smith, the left tackle, gets called for the false start on Indiana. And it's 2nd and 1 with 1:56 left. Miami has 2 timeouts. And if they get that 1st down, then the best Miami is going to be able to do is get the ball back, probably down 6 with likely about 16 seconds left. But because of the false start, they don't get the 1st down, and they end up having to give the ball back to Miami with, what was it, 1:40 left, down 6. So, like, that call almost cost them the national championship. And there were some sloppy aspects of the way Indiana played. Elijah Surratt dropped a 3rd down. I think the moment was big for a lot of people, but ultimately it was those plays that Mendoza made, that Becker made, that ultimately won the game for him. And then Kalon Black and Roman Hemby were sensational. Combined 36 carries for 139 yards. And the commitment from Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, stay with the run game. That was pretty awesome. And I think ultimately it's what allowed them to find some sustained success, keep themselves on the field, drive down the field a little bit. There was a couple of those 3rd down runs that were able to get home. That was huge. Now, let's quickly give a bit of Miami perspective. I just talked about how frustrated they've got to be because they won the line of scrimmage, in particular on the defensive side. They didn't allow pressure to get to Beck, and they still lose the game. Here's the other part that's going to be hard to swallow for Miami, is that you got some really big shoes walking out the door. Bain, Mesidor, Maui Noah, those guys aren't coming back. Beck, not coming back. That's a lot to replace. And you're right there. I mean, you're right there. And you feel like you can win that game. With some better with some better play on special teams, you're right there. And I know it's a hustle play, but like you don't grab a face mask on 3rd and 17, maybe get the ball back. Like you're right there. Miami is right there to win the national championship. And now likely are going to have to replace 3 or 4 offensive linemen, those great defensive ends, and that's going to be difficult to do. That's going to be very difficult to do. Now, not totally impossible because, again, this is a different era of college football. So it's not a death sentence that those guys are walking out the door, but it's certainly going to be hard, and it's certainly going to be frustrating, and it's a tough pill to swallow for Miami. Last thing that I wanted to touch on here is just the perspective of greatness. That's one of the best teams that we've seen in college football. They're the first one, at least in modern vintage, since the turn of last century to go 16-0. Yale did it in like the 18 whatevers, 132 years ago. And it was Indiana. It wasn't Georgia, wasn't Alabama, wasn't Ohio State, wasn't Texas or USC, wasn't Michigan, wasn't Notre Dame. It was Indiana. And that's why we are on the doorstep, or maybe right in the middle of, the greatest era that this sport has ever seen. Because certainly in our lifetime, I'm 43, and this is the first time in my lifetime that I think every single program can wake up tomorrow and think to themselves, why not us? Why not us? Now, it's not easy, and everything does have to fall in line. You got to find the right guy. You got to bring in the right coaches. You got to find the right players. You got to be committed to it. But it can happen. You're not just going to roll into a blue blood and think to yourself, well, we can't beat them. Because that no longer exists in college football. Because if you're willing to go after it, you can accumulate the talent. There is no barrier to entry into level A of college football anymore. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.